Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we're here to talk about signs you are an FP. And so these are the ENFP, INFP, ISFP, and ESFP types.
And so the first sign is living in congruence with your values as an individual is actually a really strong motivator. So when introverted feeling is your strongest judging function, your own personal values really do outweigh any values of the group around you. It can be very hard to do anything that goes against your own values. So if you're in a group and they're doing things that you morally think is wrong or go against who you are as a person, it can be very hard when FI is a strength for you to just go along. It's just an internal feeling of dissonance. You can't move forward because it just feels wrong.
And so with introverted feeling, there is a cognitive dissonance when you go against your own values. And it can hit you pretty hard if you do.
And I think it's good to point out also that it also depends on if you're an IFP or an EFP. I think that it's much more obvious in the moment for an IFP when they're going against their values. So it's much harder in the moment for an IFP to move with the group and go against a value. Whereas with an EFP, they may do it in the moment to get along, but then they're going to feel it a little bit later. I think there's a bit of a delay when it's the second function versus the first function.
And so this can also be impacted by Enneagram too. So if you identify as an Enneagram 9, you might internally disagree with what's happening, but you may look like you agree on the surface while it's happening, and you don't register until after. And that's why there's a stereotype around FI ghosting about how they might seem to go with it in the moment if they haven't fully recognized that they went against a value. But when they have, they might feel the urge to ghost after they've realized that they've went against their value. Like you don't know until you've hit a value until you've hit a value, but when you have, you know after. So for some FI users it's obvious when you've crossed a value, and for others they have a more harmonious front. And so the second sign is you are continuously reinventing yourself. And so when introverted feeling is high up for you, you are constantly changing how you see yourself. In the sense that this is a brute example, but you might love hockey, but then one day you sleep and you wake up and you're like, you know what? I might not actually like hockey. My feelings have changed on the topic depending on my mood. And so there can be a fluctuation in emotion. There is a volatility or an emotional roller coaster to introverted feeling because its emotions can change day by day on a certain subject. And so they're continuously changing how they see themselves or changing how they feel about certain things. It can fluctuate. So that's why there's a stereotype of FI users dyeing their hair a lot. Not all of them do that, but there is a subsection of them who continuously feels like a new person every few moments. And this is because they're constantly changing and reinventing who they are, and they're exploring different identities. And so with FI, they might feel like blue hair another day because it might symbolize their personality better. But maybe one day they think that red hair suits their fieriness of their personality. And so they fluctuate between different identities. And so there are two modes of FI users. There's one where they can be very black and white with their values. And then there's another mode where they're just in a constant state of flux about who they are. And they never truly come to terms with who that is because there's just so much depth to explore. And their moods can change. And that's what causes their identity to change sometimes, too. So unless it's a core value, FPs can actually be very fluid and they can shift, they can change between identities.
Yeah, and it almost comes more down to a fluidity or a changing of likes and dislikes. And also FI can take time to develop. So more experience, more feelings, more time can evolve the FI. So as you said, today I might feel strongly about one thing, and tomorrow I might feel completely opposite about it because something new has been experienced, something new has been felt. And so it can be that evolution.
Yeah, and so FI users can sometimes go from feeling really happy in one moment to in a few minutes or seconds switch to another completely opposite emotion. And it can be like, where did that come from? Whoa, I didn't know. But the FI is just like when things resonate, they resonate. And when the mood changes, it changes. You flow with that fluidity.
And the third sign is that your emotions can feel languageless, and always they seem to teach you something. So this comes in when an FI user, in general, when FI is a strength, FI users tend to be very good at using art or media to be able to convey a message. So sometimes being able to explain themselves or really prove themselves, if you will, the way the world sometimes demands, is hard for an FI user. So instead, they have a knack for using art and media to sort of express those feelings inside and put them out there for the world to even make their own interpretation. So oftentimes an FI user will have their own feeling that gets put out there into art or self-expression of some sort, and as long as it lands and evokes something in the receiver, it feels like a win. It feels like an accomplishment to the FI user, even if the receiver didn't have the same feeling that the FI user themselves was having in the moment that they expressed it or in the moment that they created the art or the expression. Because FI is so much about authentic feeling. And so my authentic feeling may be different than your authentic feeling. And if you express whatever it is that your feeling is as a result of this media or art that I've put out on the world, that makes me feel great as an FI user. I've been able to express in a way that that has let you explore an emotion. And so that feels like a win when you're a strong FI user.
And so that is not to say that all FI users are artists. You don't have to be an artist to be an FI user, but that's commonly how they approach art. Because their emotions can be languageless, it's nice to have a medium to express it if you can't really say the full depth of your emotion, because some things are hard to really put into words. And so the fourth sign is that you don't need a reason to like something, you can just like it. And so with introverted feeling, you don't need a reason for liking everything. You can just have the visceral feeling of liking it, and that's good enough. And so you don't need to explain it all. There's some beauty in the mystery of not being able to put a reason to it because some of it is not capturable through reasoning alone. Sometimes it just resonates, and that's reason enough. Of course, this doesn't have to apply to everyone, but this sign definitely does resonate for some FI users.
Yeah, because FI is not about reason. It's not about logic. And so it's a feeling. And being expected to explain that can be bothersome. It can be annoying and it can be a source of insecurity for a strong FI user. The skill of explaining the logic is not the same as the skill of expressing a feeling. And so there's that push and pull of others kind of, or maybe it's just a feeling that others expect you to be able to explain it when it's not explainable in words. It's not logic, it's just a feeling. And that brings us to our fifth sign, which is you have a natural desire to have impact on society. And that comes back to the pull of the opposite function, the opposite side of that polarity being extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinking has impact. It gets things accomplished. And there's always that connection between the two. So if you're a strong FI user, you really have that desire to have an impact. But it can be frustrating when the world seems to be judging you on your impact and how much you can produce. And it seems as though maybe the world doesn't value you just for you and who you are. It's almost like you have to prove that to the world through results. And that can be difficult when FI is your strong suit because your strength is in being able to really understand feeling and being okay with the nuance of feeling, no matter what it is, whether it's a happy feeling, a sad feeling, and everything in between. That's really your strength as an FI user, as opposed to really being able to get out there and produce, have results, and have outer world logic.
With introverted feeling, there's the push and pull between being authentic, doing the things that resonate with you, versus having an impact on society and what you're going to output, and if the thing you're getting done is really the thing that you want. And so you don't want to do things that are too inauthentic to your core. Of course, EFPs might live in a zone where they do a lot of things that are inauthentic to their core until it registers. But like ultimately, the drive from introverted feeling makes you want to do things that align with your core values. And it might take time to sort those feelings out. So, FI can be a process of mulling over your values until something really clicks.
Yeah, I agree so much. I think that with EFPs, especially being extroverts in general, they can really have the pull of that extroverted thinking along with their dominant function, whether it be extroverted intuition, extroverted sensing, to really just get into action, get things done, boom, 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 and then later realizing, I don't feel good as a person. What's happening here? Why? I'm getting all these things done. Why don't I feel good? Because when you're an extrovert, you get stuck in that extroverted space, and it can be energy draining. It's something you have to be mindful of. You have to intentionally go to that introverted space and really take the time to evaluate what is important to me. What do I stand for? What are my values? Once you know that and they're in place, then the action can be directed more towards those values and getting things done that are really meaningful to you rather than things that are meaningful to maybe the people around you or the things that other people are telling you are important.
Exactly. And so that brings us to a close. And so thank you everyone for watching this little sign series. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye.
Bye.